The title of this video promises forgotten ground beef recipes from the 1970s, and that is exactly where we begin. These dishes once shaped everyday American life, yet most people do not even remember their names. Each one reveals how families cooked during a decade defined by tight budgets, fast dinners, and creative shortcuts. By the end of this video, you will understand why these meals mattered and why their disappearance tells a bigger story about changing American kitchens. Ground beef was the backbone of weeknight cooking during the 1970s. It was affordable, dependable, and flexible enough to build casseroles, skillet dinners, and slow-simmered comfort meals. These recipes fed large families, supported busy schedules, and kept dinner tables warm during an era that balanced convenience with tradition. When you look back at them, you see more than food. You see a snapshot of culture. The stakes are simple. If you click away now, you will miss dishes that almost vanished in silence. You will miss the flavors that shaped childhood memories, community gatherings, and everyday survival for millions of Americans. Each recipe in this list has a reason it existed and a reason it disappeared, and understanding both sides gives this video its weight. Stay through the full countdown, because every single recipe reveals another piece of the decade's cooking history. Some of these lost meals may even remind you of something you have not tasted in years. Let us begin with number 1. Hamburger gravy over mashed potatoes was a steady weeknight classic that many American families recognized in the 1970s. It delivered comfort without effort and came from a time when people valued meals that felt warm, predictable, and affordable. The dish combined browned ground beef, onion, basic seasonings, and a silky gravy that soaked into a mound of soft mashed potatoes. It tasted like calm after a long day, which is why it became a routine staple across the decade. This recipe reflected the economic reality of the era. Families needed dinners that stretched a pound of beef as far as possible, and this method did exactly that. By turning a small amount of meat into a full skillet of thick gravy, home cooks created something filling and satisfying. The meal did not rely on expensive ingredients or elaborate steps. It relied on an understanding of flavor, timing, and the comfort of a familiar plate. Many viewers may remember the smell of this dish drifting through the kitchen during cold evenings. The steam rising from the potatoes, the sound of the gravy simmering, and the first bite of creamy texture mixed with savory beef created a feeling that stayed with people long after the 1970s passed. When lifestyles changed and convenience foods took over, this recipe slowly disappeared from weekly rotations, even though its emotional weight remained. The value of bringing it back is clear. It shows how families cooked with intention. It reminds us that good food does not require complexity. It proves that forgotten meals still hold meaning when we understand where they came from and why they mattered. As we revisit this dish, we honor the kitchens that shaped it and the people who depended on it. That is why hamburger gravy over mashed potatoes belongs here today. Porcupine meatballs earned their name from the way grains of rice poked through the surface as they cooked, giving each meatball a spiked appearance. During the 1970s, this dish was a dependable favorite because it transformed simple pantry ingredients into a full, filling meal. Ground beef, uncooked rice, tomato sauce, and mild seasonings came together in one pot, creating a dinner that tasted richer than its cost or effort suggested. For many families, it became a symbol of practicality and comfort. This recipe thrived during a decade shaped by rising food prices and changing household routines. Families needed meals that saved money, saved time, and still felt special. Porcupine meatballs met all three needs. The rice stretched the beef further, the sauce created a built-in side, and the slow simmering brought out flavors that reminded people of traditional home cooking. Every step served a purpose, and that efficiency became part of its charm. People who grew up in that era often remember the anticipation as the pot bubbled on the stove. The meatballs softened, the rice expanded, and the sauce thickened into a cozy blend that filled the house with a familiar aroma. It was a dish that encouraged everyone to gather at the table, even on hectic nights. Over time, as microwavable dinners and pre-packaged meals gained popularity, recipes like this one slowly faded from everyday rotation. Revisiting porcupine meatballs shows how resourcefulness shaped mid-century food traditions. It demonstrates how families used creativity to make simple ingredients feel meaningful. It also reveals the emotional connection people developed with meals that brought them together. Bringing this recipe back is more than nostalgia. It is recognition of a dish that carried families through busy schedules, tight budgets, and changing times. That is why porcupine meatballs deserve a place in this countdown. Tater tot casserole was a defining comfort dish of the 1970s, combining ground beef, creamy soup, vegetables, and a golden layer of crispy tater tots. It became a staple for families because it was easy to prepare, hearty, and appealing to both children and adults. The recipe transformed everyday ingredients into a warm, satisfying meal that could stretch across a family dinner table without demanding complex skills or expensive components. This casserole reflects the era's focus on convenience without sacrificing flavor. Canned soups provided a base, frozen vegetables added nutrition, and tater tots offered both texture and visual appeal. It was a dish that required minimal preparation yet delivered maximum satisfaction. In many households, this meal appeared on rotation not just for taste, but for its practicality and reliability during busy weeknights. Beyond its culinary simplicity, tater tot casserole carried a sense of community within the family. Children loved the crispy topping, while adults appreciated the ability to feed a crowd affordably. The dish often brought people together, transforming ordinary evenings into shared experiences. The bubbling casserole, golden and fragrant from the oven, became more than dinner, it was comfort in a pan. Over the decades, this recipe gradually disappeared from everyday use. Shifts in dietary preferences, the rise of frozen convenience meals, and changing family dynamics contributed to its decline. Yet its legacy remains. Revisiting tater tot casserole reminds us how mid-century American kitchens balanced efficiency with warmth, simplicity with satisfaction. Bringing this recipe back is not merely about food. It is about remembering a style of cooking where ingenuity met comfort, where small efforts created lasting memories. Tater tot casserole is a testament to an era that celebrated meals that were accessible, beloved, and enduring in the hearts of families. It deserves recognition among the 1970s dishes that chew. Old-school goulash, often called American chop suey, was a quintessential 1970s comfort meal. Ground beef, elbow macaroni, tomato sauce, and simple seasonings came together in a one-pot dish that was both affordable and filling. Families relied on it to turn a few basic ingredients into a dinner that satisfied appetites, stretched budgets, and delivered familiar flavors night after night. It was practical, approachable, and deeply nostalgic for those who grew up with it. This dish reflects the culinary mindset of mid-century America. Ingredients were chosen for accessibility and economy. Elbow macaroni added bulk, tomato sauce contributed tang and moisture, and the ground beef anchored the meal with protein. The recipe required minimal effort, yet it produced a sense of fullness and satisfaction that carried across the dinner table. It was ideal for busy households, offering a warm, hearty meal without long preparation times or complicated steps. Old-school goulash also held emotional significance. For many, it evokes memories of after-school meals, casual family dinners, and neighborhood gatherings. The bubbling sauce, the aroma of simmering beef, and the comforting texture of tender pasta created moments that felt both ordinary and special. Even simple ingredients could bring a sense of togetherness and routine that defined everyday life. Over time, this dish fell out of favor as convenience meals, pasta varieties, and diverse culinary trends entered American kitchens. Yet its legacy remains a testament to the era's approach to home cooking: practical, adaptable, and deeply rooted in family traditions. Revisiting old-school goulash reminds us why some recipes endure in memory even when they vanish from tables. It highlights the ingenuity of home cooks who made limited ingredients feel meaningful and comforting. This forgotten recipe deserves recognition as a symbol of the 1970s American kitchen and the flavors that shaped a generation. Beef and cabbage skillet was a practical, no-frills dinner that many American families relied on in the 1970s. Ground beef cooked with shredded cabbage, onions, and simple seasonings created a meal that was both affordable and satisfying. It provided protein, vegetables, and flavor in a single pan, making it a perfect choice for busy weeknights when time and budget were limited. This dish reflects the resourcefulness of mid-century home cooks. Cabbage was inexpensive, widely available, and stretched the beef further, creating a hearty, filling dish without extra cost. Minimal preparation was required, yet the result was a comforting, flavorful meal. Families appreciated that it was both efficient and versatile. It could be served with mashed potatoes, rice, or bread, adapting to what was on hand. Beyond its practicality, beef and cabbage skillet held emotional significance. Many who grew up in that era remember the aroma of onions sautéing in the skillet, the gentle sizzle of ground beef, and the warm, earthy scent of cabbage blending with savory seasonings. It was a dish that encouraged families to gather at the table, offering nourishment and familiarity in every bite. As convenience foods and frozen meals became more widespread in later decades, recipes like this slowly disappeared from weekly rotation. Despite its simplicity, it represented a style of home cooking that valued economy, efficiency, and the comforting act of sharing a meal. Revisiting beef and cabbage skillet reminds us that good food does not need to be complicated. It honors the ingenuity of past generations, who turned humble ingredients into memorable dinners. By remembering this dish, we celebrate both the flavors and the stories that defined American kitchens of the 1970s. This recipe, though forgotten, remains a testament to the enduring charm of simple, home-cooked meals. Beef and macaroni skillet was a classic mid-century American dinner, widely prepared in the 1970s for its simplicity, affordability, and ability to feed a family quickly. Ground beef combined with macaroni, onions, and tomato sauce created a dish that was filling, flavorful, and adaptable. It was a reliable solution for weeknights when time was short but everyone still deserved a warm, satisfying meal. This recipe highlights the resourcefulness of home cooks in that era. Macaroni served as a starch that stretched the beef, tomato sauce added moisture and tang, and seasonings provided depth without complexity. A single skillet contained everything a family needed, reducing cleanup and effort. This efficiency made it particularly appealing to households balancing work, children, and the pressures of everyday life. Beef and macaroni skillet also carried a sense of nostalgia. Many people recall the aroma of browned beef filling the kitchen, mingling with the rich scent of simmering sauce. The bubbling skillet, the steam rising from tender noodles, and the savory flavor in every bite created memories that lingered long after the meal was finished. It was comfort food, but also a practical reflection of the times. As culinary trends evolved and convenience meals gained popularity, this dish quietly disappeared from weekly rotations. Its decline does not reflect a lack of quality but rather the shifting priorities of home kitchens and changing tastes in family meals. Revisiting beef and macaroni skillet allows us to appreciate the ingenuity of 1970s cooking. It demonstrates how limited ingredients could be transformed into a hearty, crowd-pleasing dinner, providing nourishment and connection. Remembering this recipe is a way to honor the kitchens and families that made it, and to recognize the simple, enduring appeal of dishes designed for everyday life. Chipwreck casserole was a 1970s family favorite, combining ground beef, vegetables, cheese, and a topping of potato chips to create a crunchy, savory dish. The casserole gained popularity because it transformed ordinary ingredients into a layered, flavorful meal that could feed a crowd without requiring complicated techniques or expensive items. Its unique texture and playful presentation made it memorable, even for children, and it became a symbol of casual, inventive home cooking. The recipe reflected the era's approach to efficiency and creativity in the kitchen. Potato chips, often a pantry staple, were used as a crisp topping, adding flavor and crunch without additional labor. Ground beef provided substance, vegetables added color and nutrition, and melted cheese tied everything together. With minimal preparation and a single baking dish, families could produce a satisfying meal while maximizing convenience. Beyond its practicality, Chipwreck casserole carried a sense of fun and comfort. Many people remember the excitement of uncovering the golden, crispy layer on top, the aroma of melted cheese mingling with simmering beef, and the sound of bubbling sauce as the casserole baked. It encouraged families to gather around the table, turning a simple dinner into a shared experience. Over time, Chipwreck casserole faded from regular meal planning. Changing food trends, the rise of convenience meals, and evolving taste preferences contributed to its decline. Yet the recipe remains a testament to the ingenuity and resourcefulness of 1970s home cooks, who could transform basic ingredients into something both comforting and playful. Revisiting Chipwreck casserole is more than recalling a dish, it is celebrating a style of cooking that valued creativity, practicality, and shared enjoyment. It reminds us that even humble ingredients can produce meals with lasting memories, and that forgotten recipes like this one deserve recognition for the joy and flavor they brought. Meatloaf muffins were a playful twist on a classic 1970s comfort dish, transforming traditional meatloaf into individual servings baked in muffin tins. Ground beef, breadcrumbs, eggs, and seasonings came together in perfectly portioned cups, often topped with a glaze of ketchup or tomato sauce. This adaptation made meatloaf more convenient, visually appealing, and approachable, particularly for families with children or busy weeknight schedules. The recipe reflects the ingenuity of mid-century home cooks. By using a muffin tin, cooks reduced baking time, ensured even cooking, and created a meal that required no slicing or shaping. Individual servings encouraged portion control and simplified presentation while retaining the familiar flavors of traditional meatloaf. It was a practical solution for households balancing work, school, and family life, while still delivering a hearty, satisfying dinner. Beyond practicality, meatloaf muffins carried emotional significance. Many people remember the excitement of removing golden, steaming muffins from the oven, the aroma of savory beef and spices filling the kitchen. Children were drawn to the playful presentation, and adults appreciated the convenience. It was a dish that combined tradition with innovation, transforming a classic comfort food into something fun and memorable. Over time, meatloaf muffins gradually disappeared from family menus. Shifts toward frozen convenience foods, microwavable dinners, and changing culinary trends contributed to their decline. Yet revisiting this recipe highlights the creativity and resourcefulness of 1970s American kitchens. Bringing meatloaf muffins back into focus reminds us that good cooking is not just about ingredients but also about adaptation, efficiency, and joy at the table. It celebrates the balance between tradition and innovation, showing that even simple ground beef could be transformed into a dish that left lasting memories for families across the country. Beef and biscuit ring was a mid-century American favorite that transformed simple ingredients into an impressive-looking dish. Ground beef seasoned with onions, herbs, and sometimes vegetables was shaped into a circular ring and topped with biscuit dough. Baked until golden, it combined a hearty neat filling with soft, buttery biscuits, creating a meal that was both comforting and visually appealing. Families loved it for its simplicity, versatility, and the sense of occasion it brought to the dinner table. This recipe exemplifies the practicality and creativity of 1970s home cooks. The beef filling was inexpensive yet filling, while the biscuit topping provided a bread component without extra preparation. The circular shape added an element of presentation that elevated an otherwise ordinary skillet dinner. With minimal effort and readily available ingredients, home cooks could serve a dish that felt special while still being budget-friendly. Beef and biscuit ring carried emotional weight for many households. The aroma of baking beef mingling with warm biscuits often filled kitchens, creating a sense of anticipation. Families gathered around the table, enjoying the combination of soft, flaky dough and savory meat. It was a dish that encouraged communal dining, making it ideal for weeknight dinners, Sunday gatherings, or potlucks. Despite its appeal, the recipe gradually disappeared from popular rotations. Shifts toward convenience meals, frozen dinners, and evolving tastes in American households contributed to its decline. However, it remains a reflection of an era when practicality met comfort, and presentation mattered even in simple home-cooked meals. Revisiting beef and biscuit ring reminds us of the ingenuity and care embedded in mid-century cooking. It demonstrates that meals could be both functional and celebratory, that humble ground beef could be transformed into memorable dishes, and that forgotten recipes still have stories to tell. Actually, number 10 on this list is another forgotten classic, a dish that exemplifies simplicity and comfort: hamburger gravy over mashed potatoes. In the 1970s, this meal was a staple for countless households. Ground beef, browned with onions and seasoned with salt and pepper, was simmered in a rich, creamy gravy that soaked into fluffy mashed potatoes. It was inexpensive, satisfying, and perfect for feeding families quickly, making it an enduring favorite in kitchens across America. This recipe reflects the era's emphasis on efficiency without sacrificing flavor. Mashed potatoes provided a hearty base, while the gravy stretched the beef further, creating a filling meal from minimal ingredients. It required few steps, no specialized tools, and ingredients that were likely already in the pantry. The dish's success lay in its ability to feel comforting while being practical for busy weeknights. Beyond practicality, hamburger gravy over mashed potatoes carried emotional resonance. Many people recall the smell of sizzling beef filling the kitchen, the creamy aroma of gravy thickening on the stove, and the warmth of the first bite. It was more than a dinner, it was a memory-making experience, tying families together over simple, hearty fare. As the decades passed, the dish gradually disappeared from regular rotations. Changing tastes, new convenience foods, and evolving family dynamics led to its quiet decline. Yet revisiting this meal highlights its role in shaping home cooking traditions. Bringing hamburger gravy over mashed potatoes back into focus honors the ingenuity of 1970s home cooks who created memorable meals from modest ingredients. It reminds us that comfort, flavor, and family connection do not require complexity. This dish is a testament to the enduring appeal of forgotten recipes and the stories they carry from American kitchens of the past.